Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you built, your happiness, your success, your relationships, has been quietly destroyed by the very habits you've been repeating every single day. What if I told you that the fastest way to ruin your entire life isn't some big catastrophic event, but a series of toxic behaviors so common that almost everyone falls into at least a few of them? In this video, we're diving deep into the 10 most destructive habits that silently sabotage your future, holding you back from the life you truly deserve. But this isn't just about pointing out what's wrong. I'm going to give you clear, practical steps rooted in Stoic wisdom to break free from these traps. If you want to take control, stop the downward spiral, and rebuild your life on solid, unshakable ground, watch closely, because your future depends on what you do right now. Before we begin, if you're new here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the powerful life lessons we share every week. Let's get started. Number 1, surrounding yourself with yes men. One of the fastest and most silent ways to ruin your entire life is by surrounding yourself only with people who agree with you. Yes men. These are the people who never challenge your opinions, never question your decisions, and always tell you exactly what you want to hear. At first, it feels good. It feels safe. But what you're actually doing is building an echo chamber. A world where your flaws go unnoticed, your mistakes multiply, and your growth comes to a grinding halt. The Stoics understood this danger centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and Roman emperors, reminded himself in Meditations that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, difficulties and honest criticism aren't obstacles to avoid. They're the very tools that shape and strengthen us. Marcus didn't surround himself with sycophants. He actively sought out wise advisors who would challenge his thinking and hold him accountable. Without their candid feedback, he knew he would never become the leader or person he was meant to be. This principle holds true even today. Look at Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Jobs was famous not for surrounding himself with yes men, but quite the opposite. He demanded brutal honesty. He often pushed his team to be brutally truthful, even if it was uncomfortable. It was this refusal to settle for easy approval that fueled Apple's innovation and success. Jobs understood that honest criticism isn't personal. It's a gift that sharpens your vision and forces you to confront reality, no matter how harsh it might be. Why is this so important? Because without honest feedback, your weaknesses grow unchecked. Your bad habits become ingrained. Your blind spots blindside you. Over time, this leads to poor decisions in your career, toxic relationships, and a deep dissatisfaction with life itself. So how do you break free from this deadly habit? First, you must actively seek out those who will challenge you. These aren't people who just disagree for the sake of it. They are your trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues who want to see you succeed and are brave enough to speak the truth. Invite them into your life and make it clear you welcome their honest input. Second, learn to receive criticism with gratitude rather than defensiveness. The Stoics taught us to control our reactions, to accept what happens as neither good nor bad, but as facts to be faced with reason. When someone points out a flaw, don't dismiss it or get angry. Instead, pause, reflect, and ask yourself, is there truth here? How can this help me grow? Finally, create a personal practice of self-reflection every day. Write down what feedback you've received and how you plan to improve. This turns criticism into concrete growth steps and keeps you accountable. Remember, the fastest way to ruin your life isn't failure itself. It's the refusal to learn from it. Surrounding yourself with yes men is like living in a hall of mirrors where nothing is real and every image distorts the truth. Break free, seek truth, grow stronger. That is the Stoic path to lasting success. Number 2, taking everything personally. Taking everything personally is a silent but devastating habit that destroys your inner peace and clouds your judgment. When you allow the opinions, criticisms, or even the moods of others to dictate how you feel about yourself, You give away your most precious asset, your mental freedom. This habit chains you to a roller coaster of emotions, where every slight or negative comment becomes a personal attack, and every praise an unstable boost that never lasts. Over time, this emotional dependency erodes your confidence and ability to act with clarity. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, whose wisdom has guided many through turbulent times, reminds us in Meditations that external things are neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. In other words, it is not what happens to us, but how we interpret those events that causes suffering or tranquility. Marcus wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Underdelivering. This means that the power to be disturbed or remain serene lies within you, not in external circumstances or other people's opinions. Take the example of Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential women in modern history. Early in her career, Oprah faced harsh rejection and cruel criticism. Instead of internalizing these attacks, she chose to see them as reflections of others' limitations, not her worth. She focused on her values, purpose, and strengths. This mental separation allowed her to turn negative experiences into motivation and resilience, building an extraordinary career that inspires millions today. When you take everything personally, you become reactive and trapped in a loop of hurt, anger, and anxiety. This constant emotional turbulence not only drains your energy, but also blinds you from seeing situations objectively. You lose the ability to learn, adapt, and grow because your focus shifts from solutions to self-defense. This is a recipe for both personal and professional failure. How do you break free from this toxic habit? The first step is to cultivate emotional distancing, a Stoic skill of stepping back and observing your thoughts without judgment. Remind yourself regularly that others' words and actions often say more about their own fears, biases, and struggles than about you. Recognize that you cannot control what others think or say, but you can control your response. A powerful Stoic practice called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, involves anticipating possible criticism, rejection, or failure before they happen. By mentally preparing for these challenges, you reduce their power to shock or destabilize you when they occur. When you expect discomfort, you meet it with calmness and clarity rather than panic. Secondly, reframe feedback and criticism as opportunities, not threats. Ask yourself, is there truth here? What can I learn? This shifts your mindset from victimhood to empowerment. Even harsh feedback can become a valuable tool for growth if you separate it from your self-worth. Lastly, build a self-worth that is independent of external validation. Your true value lies in your character, effort, and integrity, not in how others perceive you. Cultivate virtues like wisdom, courage, and temperance, and anchor your identity in these timeless qualities. By mastering the art of not taking things personally, you reclaim your inner peace, sharpen your focus, and gain the freedom to act decisively and authentically. This habit transforms you from a prisoner of others' opinions into the master of your own mind, a foundational step toward a fulfilled and resilient life. Number 3, spending recklessly. Reckless spending is like a slow leak in a ship. You may not notice it right away, but eventually it drags you under. Each impulsive purchase, each unnecessary upgrade, each swipe of your card for something that satisfies you for a few hours but leaves you emptier than before, it all adds up. And before you know it, you're not just broke financially, you're bankrupt in discipline, purpose, and peace of mind. The Stoics were clear about this. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest yet wisest philosophers, warned against the illusion of abundance. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." He wasn't speaking from a mountain of poverty. He had access to immense wealth. But he understood that the true danger wasn't in being poor, it was in being enslaved by desires. Reckless spending is just another form of slavery, except the chains are made of dopamine hits and Amazon packages. Let's look at Warren Buffett. He's worth over $100 billion, yet lives in the same Omaha home he bought in 1958. He doesn't wear designer watches, doesn't own a fleet of luxury cars. Why? Because Buffett isn't driven by shallow status or the urge to impress. He knows that money is a tool, not a trophy. He said many times that the key to building wealth isn't how much you make. It's how much you keep and how wisely you use it. His philosophy aligns perfectly with the Stoic ideal. Control your desires so your desires don't control you. Reckless spending is often emotional, not logical. You feel anxious, bored, or insecure, and buying something becomes a quick fix. But what follows? Regret, debt, and worse, disconnection from your long-term goals. The Stoics warn that letting emotions drive decisions leads to chaos. Epictetus reminded his students, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And yes, your emotions in the heat of an impulse buy are often beyond your control, unless you train yourself otherwise. To defeat this habit, you must first confront it. Take inventory of what you spend in a week. Not just the dollars, but the intention behind each purchase. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Or is this a distraction from something deeper I'm avoiding? Then go deeper. Use the Stoic principle of temperance, moderation, not abstinence, but control. Allow yourself to enjoy life's comforts, but not to be owned by them. Build a simple budgeting system. It doesn't have to be complicated, just clear. Allocate your money in a way that honors your future self. Save consistently. Invest in things that compound. Your knowledge, your health, your business. When you delay gratification, you increase your capacity for long-term fulfillment. And that's what Stoicism is really about. Not denying joy, but choosing better joys. Don't let your future self look back and ask, where did it all go? Let them look back and say, thank you for your discipline. Ashra, because in the end, reckless spending is not about money. It's about mindset. It's about whether you're building a life or just buying one piece by piece until you have nothing left but stuff and regret. Number 4, harboring resentment. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You think you're punishing them, but in reality, you're only burning yourself from the inside out. And the longer you carry that weight, the heavier it becomes, draining your energy, clouding your mind, and stealing your peace. The Stoics were crystal clear on this. Resentment is irrational because it gives your emotional state over to someone else. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In other words, when you hold on to anger, grudges, or the desire for revenge, you are allowing another person's wrongdoing to dictate your inner world. You're letting them live rent-free in your mind, and worse, you're becoming like them. Let's consider Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, much of it in a tiny cell on Robben Island. When he was finally released in 1990, the world expected bitterness, and rightfully so. He had every reason to be consumed by resentment. But instead, Mandela chose forgiveness. He said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." Dari, that is Stoicism in action. That's what it means to choose your response. To recognize that while you cannot control what others do to you, you always have power over how you respond. Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. When someone wrongs you, you have a choice. Hold on to the story, relive the pain, nurture the grudge, or release it and return to peace. Because resentment doesn't hurt them. It hurts you. It keeps you trapped in the past, rehashing old wounds instead of healing. This doesn't mean what they did was right. Forgiveness is not approval. Forgiveness is freedom from being defined by the past, from being chained to your worst memories. You're not excusing them. You're choosing not to let their darkness infect your light. From a psychological and even neurological perspective, chronic resentment has been linked to increased stress, poor immune function, and higher risk of heart disease. So not only does it erode your mental clarity, it literally poisons your body. You are quite literally killing yourself to prove a point no one else is keeping score of. So how do we start letting go? First, acknowledge the pain. Don't suppress it. Suppressed resentment doesn't disappear. It metastasizes. Journaling, therapy, or stoic reflection can help here. Ask, what story am I telling myself about this event? Can I reframe it from a place of strength? Then make a conscious decision. I choose peace over punishment. Second, focus on what's within your control. You can't undo the betrayal, the insult, or the loss, but you can take full ownership of your present and future. You can live well, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And finally, remember, the Stoic goal isn't to feel nothing. It's to feel wisely. Anger is a natural reaction, but resentment is a choice. A habit went sur nos. And like any habit, it can be unlearned. Let go, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Number 5. Procrastination is one of the most silent and destructive habits we can form. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you later is fine. But when you keep listening to that voice, you end up waking up one day wondering where the last 5 years of your life went. To the Stoics, procrastination was not just bad time management. It was an insult to nature. They believed that postponing action was a denial of your purpose as a rational being. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." He warned us that wasting time was the one thing we do most foolishly, because it's the one thing we can never get back. So why do we procrastinate? It's rarely about laziness. It's about avoidance. Avoiding discomfort, avoiding judgment, avoiding the fear of not being good enough. We delay things not because we don't care, but because we care too much and we're afraid of failing. But here's the Stoic truth. Fear doesn't go away by waiting, it grows. Marcus Aurelius, who was both a Stoic and an emperor burdened with massive responsibilities, wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Servor one hominum, this wasn't morbid, it was empowering. If you remember that time is slipping away, you stop making excuses. You start living. Take the case of Leonardo da Vinci, a man who was clearly a genius. Yet he spent 16 years painting the Mona Lisa. He often procrastinated on commissions, and some projects were left unfinished. But here's the difference. Da Vinci's delay was driven by relentless curiosity. He was always observing, experimenting, learning. His mind never stopped. Most of us, we delay and do nothing, and that's the danger. When we procrastinate, we damage more than our schedule. We damage our self-trust. Every time you promise yourself to do something tomorrow and break it, your subconscious takes note. Over time, you stop believing your own words. That inner doubt starts to grow like rust on your soul. What do the Stoics advise? First, break the illusion of control. The Stoics taught the dichotomy of control. You can't control results, but you can control effort. Don't worry if what you do is perfect. Worry if you're not doing it at all. Action is always better than inaction, even if it's messy. Second, reduce the task to its smallest unit. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by the whole of life. Don't try to picture everything bad that could possibly happen. Stick with the situation at hand." Son, that applies to your to-do list too. Don't be overwhelmed by the entire project. Just start with the first step. Third, remember this: discipline over motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. But discipline, that's internal. It's something you build. Like Stephen Pressfield, author of The War of Art, says, "The professional shows up no matter what." That's a deeply Stoic attitude. Focus on your duty, not your mood. Procrastination often feels like rest, but it's not. It's mental weight. It builds anxiety, self-loathing, and regret. The longer you delay, the more the task grows in your head until it feels impossible. But the task isn't the monster. Your avoidance is, so take action. Even small, imperfect action, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now, because if you don't, the cost isn't just missed deadlines, it's a missed life. Number 6, overcommitting and underdelivering. There's a subtle form of self-sabotage that masquerades as ambition. Saying yes to everything, taking on more than you can handle, making promises you can't keep, and constantly trying to please others. On the surface, it may look like hard work or enthusiasm, but underneath, it's a trap. Overcommitting stretches your time thin, fractures your focus, and sets you up for a cycle of disappointment and broken trust. In the eyes of the Stoics, this habit is not just impractical, it's a failure of judgment and integrity. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and yet still made time each morning to reflect and write in meditations, understood the importance of restraint. He said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This is the Stoic approach to commitment, measured, thoughtful, and honest. When you overcommit, you betray that principle. You scatter your energy across too many battles, and in trying to win them all, you lose the war within. Consider Elon Musk, a man often seen juggling multiple ventures at once, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and more. But here's what most people overlook. Musk doesn't succeed because he says yes to everything. He succeeds because he commits to what matters with extreme focus and delegates what doesn't. His schedule is brutal, yes, but it's deliberate. He's not overcommitting in the shallow sense. He's prioritizing at a level most people never reach. And when something doesn't align with the long-term mission, he's quick to let it go. That's not luck or genius. That's strategic restraint. The Stoics would say that when you break a promise, not just to others, but to yourself, you weaken your character. Epictetus warned against trying to be everything to everyone. He advised us to define our role in life and live it well, instead of blindly chasing obligations that feed our ego but starve our soul. He believed that true greatness comes from consistency, not from grand gestures that go unfinished. There's also a deeper psychological cost to overcommitting. It leads to chronic stress, guilt, and erosion of self-trust. When you constantly underdeliver, you start to doubt your own word. You hesitate, second-guess, and eventually fall into the habit of saying yes just to avoid the discomfort of saying no. But the Stoics teach us that discomfort is a signal, not a stop sign. It's in discomfort that we learn how to be honest, how to set boundaries, and how to protect the limited time and energy we are given. So what's the Stoic solution? Commit less but better. Make fewer promises but fulfill them fully. Under-promise and over-deliver, not to impress others, but to preserve your integrity. In a world obsessed with saying yes, the courage to say no is revolutionary. Because at the end of the day, your word is a reflection of your character. And if you want to build a life of meaning and self-respect, then every commitment must be a conscious, deliberate act. Not an emotional reaction or a shallow attempt to be liked. The Stoics didn't aim to be liked, they aimed to be whole. Number 7. Relying on luck. One of the fastest ways to quietly destroy your life is by leaving it up to chance. Waiting for a lucky break, for the right time, or for some magical force to intervene is a subtle form of surrender, and not the wise kind. It's giving up your power and agency while pretending you're just being patient. The Stoics had no tolerance for such passivity. They believed that hoping for fortune to save you was not only foolish, but spiritually corrosive. Marcus Aurelius warned us bluntly, you could be good today. Instead, you choose tomorrow. In other words, relying on chance is a delay in your moral and practical progress. Stoicism is about action, not luck. It's about shaping your character, preparing your mind, and doing the work. Especially when it's hard, especially when no one's watching. Epictetus, born into slavery and rising to become a great philosopher, didn't hope for a miracle. He sharpened his reasoning, trained his discipline, and repeated one powerful Stoic idea. You are not a servant to external circumstances. You are the master of your choices. If he had waited for fortune to turn in his favor, his name would have disappeared in the dust of history. And yet in our modern world, it's easy to fall into the trap of magical thinking. Look at lottery winners. Many of them go broke within years. Why? Because they never built the discipline or structure to handle success. Contrast that with someone like J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter in cafes while surviving on welfare. Rejected by 12 publishers, she didn't wait for luck. She persisted through rejection, refining her craft, holding the vision. When opportunity finally came, she was prepared to meet it head-on. That's not luck, that's stoic endurance in action. Seneca put it perfectly when he said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Now that preparation is in your hands, you may not control every outcome, but you control your readiness for it. And that readiness comes from discipline, consistency, and deliberate thought. Hoping to get lucky is seductive. It allows you to avoid the discomfort of the grind. But the Stoic path is the opposite. It invites you to lean into the discomfort because that's where growth lives. Relying on luck numbs your potential. It convinces you that external forces control your life more than your internal effort. But the Stoics teach us that true freedom begins the moment we accept full responsibility for our choices. The path to a meaningful life isn't paved with lucky breaks. It's built brick by brick through effort, patience, and virtue. So the next time you're tempted to wait for the perfect moment, ask yourself, what if the moment is now? What if no miracle is coming? And that's a good thing. Because if it's all on you, then you can begin. Right here, right now. Number 8, avoiding responsibility. Avoiding responsibility is like running from your own shadow. No matter how fast or far you run, it follows you relentlessly, casting a dark cloud over every aspect of your life. This habit quickly erodes your sense of control and self-respect, leading to a life ruled by excuses and fear. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus famously taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Avoiding responsibility means surrendering your power to choose how you respond to life's challenges. It's a refusal to face your mistakes, own them fully, learn from them, and grow stronger in the process. When you avoid responsibility, you're essentially giving others or circumstances control over your narrative. You become trapped in a victim mindset, powerless and stuck. Yet the Stoics remind us that no external force can rob us of our virtue or inner freedom unless we allow it. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire and facing immense pressures, constantly reflected on his own role in life's challenges. He urged himself to accept blame when it was due, to correct his errors promptly, and to act with unwavering courage and wisdom regardless of external chaos. Consider the example of Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years of brutal imprisonment. Instead of succumbing to bitterness or blaming others endlessly, Mandela took full responsibility for his cause and conduct. During his incarceration, he devoted himself to reflection and self-improvement. Upon release, he led South Africa's peaceful transition from apartheid, embracing forgiveness and accountability. His willingness to own his role, both in his struggle and in healing his nation, transformed personal suffering into a historic triumph of dignity and resilience. This embodies Stoic resilience, owning your role no matter how dire the circumstances. Avoiding responsibility might feel like relief at first, but it is a slow poison that stunts your growth, damages your relationships, and leaves your life adrift. The Stoics urge us to turn inward honestly, acknowledge where we failed or fell short, and take immediate corrective action. This ownership is not shameful. It is the cornerstone of true self-mastery and freedom. As Seneca said, it is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. Soltornade, that power emerges when you stop blaming and start owning your story. When you finally stop avoiding responsibility, you reclaim your freedom and become the architect of your life rather than a passive passenger. You learn to respond with wisdom, no matter how unfair or difficult the circumstances. Responsibility turns trials into lessons, setbacks into stepping stones, and hardship into growth. Next time you feel the urge to blame someone or something else, pause and ask, what part did I play? What can I change? Because only through courageous ownership can you build a life of integrity, strength, and true fulfillment. Number 9, ignoring your health. Ignoring your health is one of the most dangerous habits that can silently unravel your entire life. It's easy to dismiss physical and mental well-being when life feels overwhelming or when you're chasing external success. But Stoicism teaches us that the body and mind are the vessels through which we experience virtue and live a flourishing life. Marcus Aurelius, himself a warrior emperor who battled illness, reminded us that the body is a sacred vessel. In warning, neglecting it not only harms your longevity, but also weakens your capacity to endure life's inevitable challenges with grace and clarity. Stoic philosophy emphasizes balance and self-discipline, and caring for your health is a fundamental part of this practice. Ignoring your diet, skipping exercise, neglecting sleep, or allowing stress to dominate your mind chips away at your resilience. When your health falters, so does your ability to pursue wisdom, act justly, and maintain courage. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." But without health, even the present becomes clouded with discomfort and limitation. Look at the life of Leonardo da Vinci, a man who combined art, science, and philosophy, known for his relentless curiosity and vigor well into old age. His dedication to a balanced lifestyle, including physical activity and mental rest, enabled him to sustain creative brilliance throughout his life. Contrast that with the countless talented individuals who burn out or suffered illness due to neglecting their health. Their potential was cut short, not by fate, but by choice. Taking care of your health is not just about avoiding disease, it's about building a foundation of energy, focus, and emotional stability that Stoicism calls living according to nature. Ordering this means aligning your actions with the natural laws governing your body and mind. It requires discipline, eating nourishing food, exercising regularly, managing stress through meditation or reflection, and scheduling regular medical checkups to catch problems early. Ignoring your health is often a symptom of deeper issues like procrastination, avoidance, or a misguided belief that success requires sacrificing well-being. But the Stoics understood that true strength comes from harmony between body and mind. Without that harmony, even the strongest character will falter. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Caring for your health is part of that goodness, respecting the life you have so you can live fully and face adversity with unshakable resolve. So, if you've been neglecting your body or mind, start today. Your future self depends on the choices you make right now. The path to a meaningful Stoic life is not just in your thoughts, but in how you care for the temple that carries your soul through this world. Number 10, surrounding yourself with negative influences. Surrounding yourself with negative influences is one of the most insidious ways to slowly destroy your happiness, ambition, and peace of mind. The Stoics were well aware of the power of environment in company. Seneca cautioned, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." This means carefully choosing the people around you because their attitudes, values, and behaviors have a profound impact on your own character and mindset. When you spend time with those who are constantly complaining, cynical, or engaging in self-destructive behaviors, their negativity inevitably seeps into your thoughts and actions, dragging you down even if you don't realize it at first. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control external events, we can control how we respond and who we allow to influence us. Marcus Aurelius himself faced betrayal, political intrigue, and toxic individuals within his own court. Yet he remained steadfast by focusing on virtuous company and his own inner discipline. He wrote, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. But this wisdom doesn't imply tolerating or internalizing harmful influences. Rather, it means being vigilant in protecting your mind by seeking those who inspire, challenge, and elevate you. A powerful real-world example is Steve Jobs, whose journey vividly illustrates this principle. After being pushed out of Apple, the company he founded, Jobs faced rejection and doubt from many around him. Instead of succumbing to bitterness or staying in environments filled with negativity, he intentionally surrounded himself with creative, driven, and optimistic people at Pixar and Next. This positive influence reignited his passion and innovation, enabling him to return to Apple and lead it to unprecedented success. Jobs' story shows that changing your circle can literally change the course of your life. Negative influences are not limited to toxic people alone. They also include destructive habits, pessimistic media, and environments that encourage stagnation or despair. The Stoics emphasize the importance of self-awareness and discipline, recognizing when your environment undermines your values and having the courage to distance yourself or change it. This is like tending a garden. You must uproot the weeds of negativity to allow the flowers of virtue and growth to flourish. When you commit to surrounding yourself with positive, uplifting influences, you create a protective shield against life's inevitable hardships. You build resilience, clarity, and joy. This is living according to nature, aligning yourself with what nourishes your soul rather than what poisons it. Remember, your mind is your most valuable asset. Guard it wisely by choosing companions who reflect the person you aspire to become. Take a moment to honestly evaluate your relationships and daily influences. Are they helping you grow or holding you back? It might be uncomfortable, but the Stoics teach that growth often requires difficult decisions. As Seneca said, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Make that choice today, because your life's quality depends largely on the company you keep. You've just uncovered 10 toxic habits that silently destroy your life, and more importantly, how to overcome them with the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy. Remember, change isn't easy. It demands honest self-reflection, discipline, and courage. But as Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Tonim, your obstacles are not dead ends. They're opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. If you're serious about transforming your life, start by choosing just one habit to work on today. Small, consistent steps will build the foundation for a life of purpose, resilience, and true happiness. If this video gave you value, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep insights that help you master life with Stoic wisdom. Share your thoughts or which habit you're tackling first in the comments. I'm excited to hear your journey. Thanks for watching, and remember, the power to change your life is always in your hands.